Namo Buddhaya. A quick question. Are you having sleepless nights because of these heavy loads of thoughts that are coming and looping inside your mind? Or are you someone who is imagining the worst case scenarios all the time whenever you're going to do something new? Or are you someone who is worrying about what other people will think of me? Well, if you are such a person, you might be overthinking. So let's find out a way where we can get out of our head and quit overthinking and get the works done. So what we can do for this? Well, the first and the foremost thing that you have to do is to realize that overthinking is not going to help you in the process, right? You can plan, you can analyze, but do not overdo it. If you are over-planning, if you are over-analyzing, it's not going to help you, right? It will distract you from the process. The first thing that you have to realize is that overthinking is not going to help you. The second thing, you can practice to be mindful. Now, this is a practice that you can do to stop overthinking, to be mindful, to practice the mindfulness. So how can we practice the mindfulness? So there are many ways that our great teacher Supreme Buddha taught us to be mindful. One of them is to be mindful about the breathing pattern, which we call Anapanasati, right? When you become more mindful about this inhale and exhale, your mind instantly comes to the present moment, right? Now you're only thinking about inhale and exhale. You're being mindful about that. Now, instantly, you reduced these thousands and thousands and looping thoughts to two thoughts. What are those two thoughts? Inhale and exhale. So when you're thinking like that, and when you become mindful, normally, automatically, you will find the peacefulness and you will stop overthinking about these things, right? So whenever you catch yourself overthinking, what you have to do, take 3 deep breaths in and out, right? And just stay for a while by being mindful about your breathing pattern. Or you can be mindful about your body, right? You can ask from yourself that, how am I sitting now, right? What am I doing now? And you ask these things from yourself, you can answer these things like, I'm sitting now. You can recognize. When you do these things, you can be mindful. If you're mindful, your mind is in the present moment. And when your mind is in the present moment, your mind is in the peacefulness. There's a saying, and it goes like this. If you're sad, then your mind is in the past. If you're anxious, your mind will be in the future. But if you're peaceful and if you're still, your mind is in the present moment. So start living in the present moment, right? When you live in the present moment, when you live right here, right now, you can be more peaceful and you can stop these overthinking patterns, right? And also, there's another part of overthinking. What is that? The what if question, right? So many people ask from them that, what if this happened? What if this not happens, right? What if everything that I did was wrong? They are constantly thinking about these things like that, right? They are imagining these worst case scenarios. So, I must say something about them, right? So, if you're thinking this what if question again and again, you can ask from yourself, what if everything that I did was okay? You can be positive. What if everything that I've planned and I've done was really great? So that can happen. There is always many possibilities for your plans to go okay. So don't be negative. Always think, I'm not going to be perfect, right? I cannot be perfect, but I can be the best version of myself. I can do my best. I must do my best. And be positive and go for it and take risks. Without taking risks, we cannot be successful in our lives. So practice these things, right? Be more mindful, right? Be more kind to yourself. And always think that if I overthink, if I constantly worry about myself, it will kill the peacefulness of my life. So I hope this video gave some light to your life. So be peaceful and be mindful and get out of your head and start doing the works that you haven't done. We all seek happiness in this world. If I ask from you, would you like to be happy in your life? What will be your answer? You will say, of course, I want to be happy in my life. I want this peaceful state. I need to be in that. That is your answer. That is the answer of all living beings. Buddha says that all living beings likes to be happy and they seek the happiness. If you really think about our life, we are in a never-ending journey of pursuing happiness. Let me tell that again. We are in a never-ending journey of pursuing happiness. That means we are pursuing happiness, we are chasing and we are seeking for happiness, but yet we have not found it. So, what is the reason for this not finding happiness? Why we don't find happiness in our life? We are seeking it, we are finding for it, but we don't find it. What is the reason? Well, the Buddha teaches us that we are finding or we are seeking this happiness from a source that the happiness does not exist. Because we are seeking happiness from external world. We are seeking happiness from these materialistic things. Well, when you seek happiness from materialistic things or external world, you get pleasure, but that is not happiness. Pleasure is something temporary and it gives you this instant gratification. But in happiness, the happiness is long-lasting and it gives you this happiness or the contentment about yourself. So that is why Buddha teaches us that you're finding the happiness from a source where the happiness does not exist. So the more you find it, the more you become frustrated. So, will we ever be able to find happiness in our life? The Buddha answers this question. He says, yes, you can find happiness in your life. How to do that? If you look closely to the first and the second verses of Dhammapada, Buddha says, if one with an impure mind speaks or acts, the suffering will follow him like a cartwheel following the ox. If with an impure mind one speaks or acts, the suffering will follow him. And in the next verse, Buddha says, if with a pure mind one speaks or acts, the happiness will follow him like a shadow following a man. So that means the happiness and the sadness entirely depends on the purity and the impurity of our mind. When our mind is pure, we can find the happiness. So, how can we find or how can we gain this purity in our mind in order to find the happiness? Well, Buddha teaches us there are a lot of things that you can do to make your mind pure. So today, I'm going to share with you a few things that can give you the happiness in your life, that you can find the happiness in your life. First thing, accepting the reality of life will give you the happiness. You know, life is full of ups and downs. Sometimes you have good days, sometimes we have bad days, sometimes we have beautiful memories, sometimes we also have miserable memories. So life is not something that is going equally every day. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. When you realize this reality, you can face these situations successfully. Right? It is not always this bad experience makes us frustrated. It is our reaction towards this bad experience makes us frustrated. Whenever you get a bad experience or a bad day or a bad situation, tough situation, difficult situation, you have two choices. Either you can focus on the pain and feel miserable about that situation, or you can focus on the lesson that bad situation teaches us and learn from it and start growing your life. So, if you accept the reality of life, it is not temporary. Sometimes the people around us are not in our control. We cannot control their reactions. We cannot control their opinions. So when you realize these situations, you can face those situations successfully. That is one thing, accepting reality of the life. Number 2, Buddha said, be generous. Practicing generosity is a major practice in Buddhism. Well, in Buddhism, the generosity is known as dana. In dana, Buddha says that you have to give without any expectations. We have to give and we have to dedicate towards others without expecting anything in return. That is one thing that we have to practice. Most of the time, we like to hold on to things or gather the things towards us. That is what people think. When you gather more, when you collect more things, you will get rich and you will gain happiness. But that does not give you the happiness. It will give you the pleasure, but it is temporary. So what we have to do, Buddha says, be generous, give, help others, dedicate a part of your life on behalf of others. When you do that, when you become more generous, let's say like this, you gave some foods to a poor person, let's say like that. When you see that person is having those foods and overcoming his hunger and making his life much better, you can be happy by seeing that. When you become happy like that, you feel happy about yourself. Right? Nothing can give you that happiness. Like by eating a good food, by dressing a nice dress, you cannot gain that happiness. You don't feel happy about yourself. Right? Let's say after hundred of years later, maybe 10 decades later, when you think about that incident, I gave this food to this poor person. When you remind that, you feel happy. Even then you feel happy. That means happiness is long-lasting. So Buddha says, be generous, help people, do something nice every day for a person. That is one thing we can do. And number 3, forgiving. Forgiving is one of the most important things that we can do to create happiness in our life. We have to forgive ourselves. Also, we have to forgive others too. Because forgiving, when you forgive, it doesn't mean that you are saying okay to others' mistakes. It's okay. No, you're not saying like that. When you forgive, you make your heart free. So when you forgive, it's not for that person, it is for you. And also we have to forgive for ourselves. There are so many mistakes that we all have done in the past. If you hold on to past, and if you make this present moment miserable, that will not give you the happiness. So what do we have to do? Whatever the bad thing that we have done in the past, we have to have this ability to forgive ourselves and start all over again. We all have that ability, right? We all have that privilege to start our life again and make it a better one. Okay? So no one is perfect in this world. We all have done mistakes. One thing that we have to do is to forgive and start doing good things. So these are 5 things that we can do to create happiness in our life. And also, there is one happiness that is called the ultimate happiness in this world that the Buddha teaches us. That is called Nibbana or Nirvana. That is the enlightenment. When you realize about the reality of this life, and when you remove this desire or the craving that arises within your mind, then Buddha says that is the ultimate happiness. Simply, the Nibbana means Ragakkayo, Dosakkayo, Mohakkayo, Nibbana. That means removing of the desire, anger, and the delusion of the mind is called the enlightenment. So that is the highest level of happiness that we all can reach. So when you practice these practices, right, when you engage yourself in wholesome state, that will create you the happiness in the life. So practice these things and make your life a happier one. Namo Buddhaya. No matter how good we are, no matter how talented we are, there are certain times in life we are going to make mistakes. We are going to mess things up in life. In such times, one of the most common things that we do is we hate ourselves. And this self-hatred can end up in serious situations like suicide. See how many times we say, I love you to someone. How often we say? We say it often, right? But how often we say, I love myself. I appreciate who I am. This is something that we don't do openly. See, in Buddhist practice, the first step of spreading love and kindness is to practice love and kindness or spread love and kindness to yourself. So the Buddha saw that without being filled with self-love and self-kindness, you cannot be kind to someone else. So that is why we have to learn how to be kind and how to love ourselves without hating ourselves. So from this video, I'm going to be sharing with you a few things that we have to understand and we have to practice to stop hating ourselves and to start appreciating and loving our life. Number 1, do not believe in labels. See, there are lots of labels that we have put on ourselves. For an example, your name. Your name is a label that was given by maybe your parents, and everyone started to call from that name, and it became your personality. It became who you are. Okay? Same like that, we are so good at labeling ourselves with our imperfections, with our mistakes, or with our incapabilities. But here's the thing, the more we label ourselves with our incapabilities, for an example, people say to themselves like, I am a person who is being angry all the time. Okay, I'm a person who has having a weak mindset. I'm a person who is lazy all the time. Okay, I don't have any friends. I'm not getting in with friends. Okay, I cannot be with these people. So the more you label like that yourself, it becomes your personality. And that is why we should not believe in the labels that we put on ourselves. Why? Because a label or your incapabilities or your weaknesses or your mistakes are just a thought pattern. And it is always can be changed. Okay? You can always improve. And that is why we should not label ourselves with our incapabilities and our mistakes or from our weaknesses. We always have the chance to improve and to evolve. Number 2, learn to accept mistakes. Mistakes are the proof that says that we are trying in life and we are not willing to give up on ourselves. Every great person in this world has made mistakes, and they have learned from their mistakes, and that is how they evolved, and that is how they achieved the greatness. Always remember, the mistakes will never define your character unless you define your character with your mistakes. So do not let your mistakes to define your character. Always you have the chance to improve and move on and make yourself a good person and improve yourself. Believe in it. Number 3, stop criticism. This is something that is very important that we have to focus on in loving ourselves. Stop criticizing yourself. Stop criticizing others. Now here I'm not talking about the constructive criticism. I'm talking about the negative criticism, okay? Do not criticize others and also do not criticize yourself, okay? Why we should not criticize others to put others down? In each and every time when we criticize someone, we give the message to our mind that we are better than them, okay? I am perfect than them. And you set standards to yourself. Most of the time, these are not realistic standards, okay? And when we cannot live up to our own standards, what happens to us? We hate ourselves. And that is how criticism steals the self-love and the self-value. And that is why we should not criticize anyone. And number 4, believe that imperfection is beautiful. Just take a deep breath and look into this nature. Everything has that one nature that is the imperfection. From the little plant to the great mountain, everything is imperfect, right? There is no perfectly symmetrical plant in this world. There is no perfectly symmetrical mountain in this world. Everything has the imperfection. And as humans, we also imperfect human beings, okay? And also it gives the chance for us to evolve. It gives the chance for us to be more productive and be more successful. See, becoming successful and becoming happy is not a destination. It is not a perfection, right? It is always a journey. We have to keep improving ourselves. We have to keep becoming successful, becoming happy. It is a journey that we go through in this life. So when you accept the imperfections, no matter how good we are, no matter how talented we are, no matter how great we are, there will be always imperfections in life. When we accept it, we can focus our kindness and our love towards ourselves. And also, every single day, this is something that you can practice. When you wake up in the morning, just sit on the bed and think, no matter how imperfect I am, no matter what mistake that I do in my life, I'm not going to give up on myself, right? I keep improving myself. I keep making myself a good person, a happier person, and I will never let go of myself. This is not something that is called selfishness. Selfishness is expecting many unrealistic things from yourself, right? And then when you're not up to your standards, you start to hate yourself. And that is why when you truly love yourself, truly love your imperfections, and truly love who you are and accept who you are, you get the chance to improve and you get the chance to evolve. And these are the things that we have to keep in mind in order to practice the self-love and improve the self-value. So keep practicing these things and make your life happier and healthier. Now, one of our viewers have asked a question from us, that what is true love according to the Buddhism? Well, when we talk about the topic love, remember, as humans, as beings in this world, we all seek love and affection in our life, right? All living beings needs love to live. So when you talk about the topic love, it is a vast and a broad topic, right? Love can be found in many ways. But the basic and the base for all these kinds of love is the kindness and the compassion. But most oftenly, people may misunderstand the love and the attachment. Right? When we come to the topic of love between the partners, the male and females, boys and girls, many of the boys and girls, they doesn't know what is true love and what is attachment. Now there is a distinct difference between true love and attachment. So what is that difference? Well, when someone loves another person, he will say, I need you to be happy by being with me. Right? In the other hand, if someone being attached to some person, he will always say that why are you not making me happy? Right? So there is a big difference between these two expressions. When someone loves another person, he will say, I need you to be happy by being with me. That means you are trying to give something to someone. Right? You always try to give the happiness to a person. But if you are being attached to someone, right? If you are developing lustful ideas towards someone, your mind will say, why are you not making me happy? You need to make me happy. So that is based on the selfishness. Right? The true love is based on unselfishness. Right? In the true love, there are many things, many good assets. They are the love, kindness, compassion, patience. These are the basic qualities that leads to the true love. Right? If you are loving someone, you need to be kind to that person. You need to be compassionate to that person. You need to feel the sadness of those people. Now, when we talk about the topic compassion, compassion means to suffer with other people. That means if you can feel the pain that is hidden inside the people's life, if you can feel and become empathy, you can feel the empathetic feeling about them, then that is called compassion. If you can share the pain that is in another person with you, then that is compassion. So in true love, you need to have that sharing ability. And also, you need to have the kindness. You need to always wish the well-being of that person. Right? You need always to wish the good of that person. That is how you love truly. Our great teacher Supreme Buddha gave a wonderful explanation for the love. Supreme Buddha said, Mata yatani yang puttang ayusa eka putta manurakhe. As a mother who loves her only child, you should spread that same love to every person in this world. So when we talk about mother's love, parents, they does not expect anything from us. Instead, they love us. Now, when we were small, right, we were doing so many terrible things to our parents, right? Have you seen that the babies do so many terrible things to their parents? Right? They drag from their hair, they pinch them, they cry, they yell, but yet the parents still love their children. So when someone is truly loving someone, it's like they're holding them firmly and they're nurturing them. Right? But if you are attached to a person, you always expect the things from others. Right? You always expect the things that fulfill your desires. Right? When someone is attached and when someone is being lustful for someone, that means he's always expecting to fulfill every fulfillment and desire from that person. You're not trying to give something, always you are trying to get something from that person. Right? It's like you're holding on to something tightly. Right? Suppose you are drawing a cow or a bull. You are holding that cow or a bull from a rope. So when that animal tries to escape, what you are doing is you are holding it tightly. Right? The more you hold it tightly, you are the one who is getting hurt. Right? You are the one who is getting hurt. If you can let go, what will happen? You are not getting hurt anymore. So when you are being attached to a person, you will always get hurt. And you will never fulfill your desires, because desires and sensual desires, they never get fulfilled. We cannot make ourselves satisfied from those things. Okay? So that is what you call the attachment. In attachment, you hold on to things tightly. There is a great quote that describes about love. If you like a flower, right? If you like a flower, you will pluck that flower. But if you love a flower, you will water the plant, that flower plant. So if you love someone, what you have to do, you have to say that I need you to be happy with me. Right? I always wish the happiness of your life. If that happiness includes me, that is better. But if it is not, in that case also, I need you to be happy. That is how you love truly. And that is the difference between the true love and the attachment. Right? In true love, you don't expect anything from the person, but still you try to give the happiness to them. In attachment, you always expect the things from people, and still you will never be satisfied from them. So choose to love the people correctly. If you choose to love people correctly, then you will be a peaceful person throughout your life. Welcome to another video. In today's video, let's talk about relationships. And I'm going to be sharing with you 6 principles taught by the Buddha on having a healthy and happy relationship. Well, maintaining a healthy relationship, maintaining a happy relationship or long-lasting relationship is a bit challenging. Why? Because we have different personalities. We are different from one to another, right? But we lose this ability to understand about this situation, this reality. What is the reality? The difference between each other. Sometimes we ask from the people, or we ask from our partners, why can't you think like me? Why can't you be like me? Why can't you act like me or behave like me? This is where we make many problems in relationships. But if we can realize the difference between one another, or if we can realize this reality, what is that? We are different from each other. Then we can get the power of understanding. There's one important quality that we must practice in any kind of relationship, and that is the understanding. Right? Understand other situations. Understand why they are acting like that, why they are behaving like that. So, our great teacher Supreme Buddha taught there are 6 principles to practice. These are the practices, actually. If you practice these 6 principles in any kind of relationship, your relationship will be much more happy and healthy. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get into these principles, and I'm going to explain one by one in turn. First of all, the Buddha said, you need to practice these principles when that person, the person or our partner or our companion or the people who we are relating to, when that person with us or in front of us, and also in the times where that person is not with us. That means both privately and publicly we have to practice and maintain these principles in our life. And also, these principles was taught by the Buddha to monks actually, because as monks, we live as a community. Now in our monastery, we have more than 25 monks. So when you analyze their personalities, they all are different. They all have different ways of lifestyles. So when we are interacting, there may be some problems. There may be some crashes. But if you practice these qualities, if we practice these qualities, there will be less problems. There will be less disagreements. So that is why Buddha taught us these principles. So this was originally preached by the Buddha to the monks actually. And also, you can apply these principles to your life also. So let's get into the first principle. Buddha said, you need to treat your spiritual companions, regarding to monks actually. Buddha said, you need to treat your companions with physical kindness, bodily kindness. What do you mean by bodily kindness? There are certain things that we can do from our body in order to show our kindness or show our compassion towards that person. It may not be big things like spending money on big things and buying big things to the person. But also, there are many things that we can do. There are little things that we can do for that person to create happiness on that person's mind. And also we can give that, by doing these things, we can give that idea that we value your life. That I value your being with me. So Buddha said, do the acts of loving kindness from your body. Maybe like helping in his career, maybe like helping in his household activities. If you take an example, like in a husband and wife relationship, you can share the things that you are doing in the life. We can help each other. That is one way of showing love and kindness to that person. And also we can show in many ways our love and kindness to these people. When you act from your body with love and kindness, that creates the mutuality between people. So the first principle is to treat people with physical kindness. Then Buddha said, as the second principle, treat the companions with verbal kindness. You can speak nice and kind and heartwarming words to them to create the happiness and create the pleasure in their mind. Each and every one of us likes to listen to pleasant words, right? We all surrender in front of the kindness, kind words, kind actions. So The first and second thing is to treat them with physical kindness and also with verbal kindness. And as the third principle, Buddha said, this is the most important principle, and that is, treat your companions with mental kindness. This is the important one. Why is that? Because if you maintain, if you generate these kind thoughts towards the people around you, in your mind, your thoughts become your actions. Then your actions will be more kind. Your thoughts become your words, then your words will become more kind. So as the third principle, Buddha taught us, treat your companion with mental kindness. Okay? So when you treat your companion with mental kindness, that means you are spreading this rays and this power of kindness towards them when that person is in front of us, and also in the times where he or she is not with us. We have to do it in the same way. That is the third one. And also as the fourth principle, Buddha said, you have to share without reservation. For the monks, Buddha said, if you get any kind of food or any something good to your life, you have to share that thing with your spiritual companions. Now we monks, when we get some food, we always try to share with our monks. So you can adopt that to your life. Whatever the things that you get, maybe like you had something very delicious food when you're working in a long distance place. And when you come home, or when you come to your partner, or when you come to that person, you can say, hey, I had this food, I had this delicious food. I need you to have that. That means you're sharing it. When you share without reservation, it creates the peacefulness and it strengthens the relationships. So sharing is one of the most key and important ingredients in relationships. And as the fifth principle, Buddha said, you have to be virtuous. What do you mean by virtuous? Now, in Buddhism, as normal people, in Buddhism, we practice 5 precepts. Buddhist people practice 5 precepts: abstaining from killing beings, abstaining from stealing, abstaining from sexual misconduct, abstaining from telling lies, and abstaining from taking intoxicating drinks and drugs or alcohols. So these are the 5 precepts that lay people practice in Buddhism. So when you become more moral or virtuous, it creates the trust in people. Now there's in relationships, in normal relationships, in people, this third precept is very important. In third precept, it simply says, you are not cheating your partner. That means it creates the trust and loyalty between the partner and in the relationship. In any kind of relationship, trust is the foundation. Without trust, there is no use of a relationship. So when you become more virtuous, you will create the trust and loyalty in the relationship. And as the sixth and the final principle, Buddha taught us, you have to have a common view in any kind of relationship. That means, if you can, in a relationship, if both the people, or if everyone work for one dream, work to achieve one goal, that creates the peace in this relationship. Now as monks, Buddha said you have to have one dream or one goal in your life. There's only one purpose of becoming a monk, and that is to end the sufferings of this long cycle of rebirth and to be enlightened. When all the monks get together and work for that dream, then that will be so much easy to live with them. right? When someone is deviating from that path, that creates the problem, right? So in relationships also, if every one of us can work for one dream or to achieve one goal, then that will be more easy and more happy. So these are the 6 principles that we must practice in any kind of relationship. You can apply these principles to any kind of relationships, whether it is husband and wife, maybe like girlfriend and boyfriend, whether it is like parents and children, whatever the relationship is, you can apply these principles and make it more healthy and happy. So practice these principles, add them to your life, and make your life a better one. So I'm going to end this video with a nice quote that I've read. It says, "All relationships go through bad times, but the real relationships get through bad times." So practice the principles and make your life a better one. Namo Buddhaya. Welcome to another video. In today's video, let's talk about how to control our negative emotions and how to control our mind. Well, the nature of our mind is it always likes to wander in negative emotions and negative thoughts. Negative thoughts like anger, desire or lust, or then jealousy, maybe resentment. These are the negative thoughts that our mind likes to wander in. So how can we control it? Well, our great teacher Supreme Buddha introduced us a gradual training where you can practice this controlling of negative emotions or negative thoughts in your mind. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce them to you. So first and foremost, before getting into these steps, there is one thing that you have to practice, and there is one thing that you have to master, and that is awareness. If you are not aware of what you're thinking, if you are not mindful about what you're thinking, then you cannot control it. So you have to totally understand and you have to totally be aware of what you're thinking. Okay? So whenever you become aware of what you're thinking, then you will have that power to control it. So here comes the first step. Buddha says, whenever you become aware of your mind is wandering in negative thoughts like anger or lustful thoughts or resentment or jealousy, the first thing is to shift your thought pattern to something wholesome. There are some wholesome thoughts in your mind which makes you peaceful. Maybe like thinking of something that you have done in the past, like maybe you helped someone. Whenever you think that thought, your mind becomes happy and peaceful. So what you're going to do is, whenever you become aware of your negative thoughts, we're going to shift our thought pattern to something that is wholesome, something that makes us peaceful. So that is the first thing that Buddha says. Shift your thoughts to wholesome thoughts. If that first step did not work out, then what you have to do, go for the next step. What is that? Buddha says, think about the disadvantages of thinking negative emotions, right? If you are constantly having angry thoughts, then you have to think, these thoughts are hurting myself and others. If I take actions according to these thoughts, it will hurt myself and the others. Remember, it may be a little thought of anger, but if it grow up, what will happen? It will be destructive. So what do you have to do? Think about the drawbacks or disadvantages of thinking these negative thoughts. Then, whenever you see these disadvantages, your mind will tend to stay away from these negative thoughts. Most of the time, we are not aware of these disadvantages. Okay? So what do you have to do? Think, if I keep on thinking these negative thoughts, it is not going to help me. It will disrupt my peacefulness, right? That is the second step. Then as the third step, Buddha says, pay no mind, pay no attention. If the second step did not work out, go for the third step, to not to pay any attention to
that thought, right? See, whenever we give so much attention to something, maybe a thought, it grows again and again, it grows more, right? For an example, if you became angry with someone and if you keep thinking about him again and again and becoming angry, that anger will grow more and more. So what do you have to do? We have to let the thought be a thought without paying much attention, right? When you just stay away from giving attention, then it will fade away from your mind. It's something like this. Have you seen little babies, when they fall down, they start to cry, right? If the parent or the mother or father see that it is not a big deal of falling, if mother or father did not give any attention to that baby, what does he do? He just don't care about that. He will stop crying. Same thing goes with our mind. If we did not pay any attention to that thought, right? If we did not care about that thought and just let it go and let it pass away from our mind, then it will fade away. That is one way of doing that. If the third step did not work for you, then the Buddha says, go for the fourth step to relax your thought process, right? Now remember, when you think negative thoughts, your mind becomes so much busy, so much rough and distracted. So, what you're going to do is, you're thinking, why am I thinking these distractive thoughts? These negative thoughts that are making me so much busy and making me distracted, right? So, what you're going to do is, you're relaxing your thought process to something very soft and subtle. Maybe like loving kindness, maybe like compassion, right? Maybe like gratefulness. When you think those thoughts, when you think more positive thoughts, your mind or your thought process becomes so much relaxed. And then, if the fourth step did not work for you, then it comes the final step. This is something that we have to do with a great care. I do not recommend for everyone to do this. This should be done with a great experience and a good practice, right? And that is to crush your thought with awareness, right? You have to be totally aware of your thinking pattern and have a good determination to your mind that I am not going to think these negative thoughts, right? But this should not be done by everyone, right? Some may be not good at this, right? If you keep on becoming aware and if you keep on forcing this mind, it will grow more and more these negative thoughts. So if all those 4 steps did not work for you, then you have to go for the final step, right? So it is much better to practice these 4 thoughts before doing the final one, okay? So practice these things. When you practice, you will feel and you will understand that your negative emotions are fading away little by little. Remember, this is not going to happen overnight. It will take a long time to do this, but you have to keep on practicing. Keep on doing it. Make it a habit, and then you will become a master of it. So practice this practice and make your mind a place where free from negative thoughts.
Welcome to yet another episode in Inner Guide Q&A program. Now it's been a long time that we haven't done a Q&A session. So today we are going to answer one of your questions. Someone has mentioned in the comments that it said that what to do when the life is becoming unfair and what to do when life is not going in my way. Well, we are going to talk about this today. First of all, remember the nature of our life. What is the nature of our life? Life is a little bit unfair. That is the real nature. But the problem is we expect that everything in our life to be perfect and to be fair. That is the problem. That is where the real problem is. Because Buddha said, if you have expectations, if you have more and more expectations inside yourself, chances are very high for you to feel so stressed. So remember that expectations stands for suffering. If you expect the life to be fair, you will suffer, right? So the nature of our life is, it is a little bit unfair. So how to face such situations, how to face unfair situations in our life? Well, I want you to do 3 things when you face tough situations in your life, right? These are very simple, but yet when you practice it, it is very hard to do that, but you can achieve it. Number 1, first of all, you need to realize what the situation is. That is the first thing that you have to do. If you're going through a hard time, right, you need to analyze about that and see what the problem is. Well, there are 2 types of situations in our life. What is that? First type of situation is the situations which are in our control, experiences which can be changed by ourselves, right? And the second type of situation is the situations which are out of our control. We cannot do many things about that situation, right? So these are the 2 types of situations that we go through in our life. So first of all, you need to analyze and you need to see what the problem is, whether it is in my control or out of my control. Right? When you realize about the situation, then you can do something about that situation. Okay? That is the first thing you have to do. Analyze the situation. Number 2, if it is a situation that is in your control, just do something to change that situation. So, what are the things that are in our control? What are the situations and experiences that we face in our life and which are in our control? Well, if you face a bad time, if you face a stressful situation because of your own faults, because of a mistake that is within yourself, then you can change it. Because we own our mistakes. We are the owners of our mistakes, and the mistakes can only be changed by ourselves. No one can change that. Someone can advise you, someone can show you the path, but no one can make it correct than you. So, what you have to do, you have to change the situation. If it is your mistake, correct it. If it is your fault, then do something about it to change that situation. So these are the things that are in our control. Remember. Here's the third one. When we face the situations that are out of our control, how to face that situation? Well, these are the situations we spend most of our time trying to change that, but we cannot do anything about that situation. So what are the situations which are out of our control? There are many things, right? Criticism is out of your control. People's opinions, they are out of our control. How people behave in front of you is totally out of your control. They are their choices, not your own choice. But we try to change these situations and we become so sad and depressed trying to change, and we find that we cannot change this situation. So if you cannot change the situation, what you have to do? You have to change your perspective about the situation, right? You can change the perspective about the situation, because the perspective, the perspective and the way you see that about that situation is totally in your control. Because your thoughts are in your control, right? So what you need to do is, if you cannot change the situation, change the perspective, change the way you see about that situation. Okay? So remember, when people act weird in front of you, when people try to make you angry, when people criticize you, right? When people give unwanted opinions about you, just think, these things are out of my control. I should not waste my time of my life to change these situations. It is much better to change my perspective about this situation. So how can you change the situation? How can you change the perspective? You can be kind to them, right? You can maintain a positive mindset inside you, right? It is much better to maintain a positive mindset daily, every day, right? Listen to some things like positive things, positive words every day. It is much better to do that, because the more you listen to the positive words, positive ideas, right? Then the more you become positive inside, right? Then you can change your perspective about the situation. That is what you can do. Always remember what Buddha said. It is a nice quote that Buddha said that describes about the life. Buddha said, "Achinti tampi bhavati, chinti tampi vinasati." That is one of the greatest and one of the nicest quotes that Buddha have told about the life. In life, Buddha said, "Achinti tampi bhavati." Most of the times, unexpected things happen. Isn't that true? We don't know what will happen in the next time, right? It is a mystery. So in life, always unexpected things happen. And the things that we expected will going to be destroyed, right? If we expect something, we don't get the same thing. That is the thing. So remember that quote that was said by the Buddha. Achinti tampi bhavati, chinti tampi vinasati. Right? And there's another quote that was said by the Buddha. Sadharanang vihanyanti. If you expect the life to be fair, chances are more that for you to suffer in your life. So live with less expectations, right? If you are going through a tough situation, just analyze the situation, realize about the situation, and if you can change the situation, do something about it. If you cannot do something about the situation, change your perspective. That is what you can do when the life is not going in your way. So make your life a peaceful one with the teaching.